All right. Okay, we should be good. Awesome. All right. Hello, everybody. Hope you are all doing well. Welcome to another Raven Reads, or Raven's Roost, whatever you want to call it. This is the stream where I just read to you guys, and usually I am reading my own stories and my own books. And today we are continuing our reading of Monster Club, which is one of the earliest stories I ever wrote, and one of the few that I have finished but will never publish because I just feel like it's a little too personal. So we have been enjoying this. We're on chapter 12 now. And last time we read quite a bit. There was a lot of change. Katie has just returned to the Monster Club. We saw a little bit of Sarah's memory. It's been a lot of fun. So we are going to read a little further tonight. Might not go as far as I would normally go. I know that it says in the title of the stream that I'm going to try to get to, believe I said it was, what was it? Chapter 17? I don't know if we'll get that far, but we will try. So just a reminder of the rules, guys, for those who don't remember. The rules are simple. Please, no talking about games or politics or art or anything else of that nature while we do this stream, because this stream is 100% dedicated to the story and to the characters, and that's what we dedicate Monday nights to. You can always save those discussions for other videos or for the Discord. And please be respectful to me and to everyone else in chat. That is what I ask. So, we are ready to get started on Monster Club. Bear with me also. I am a little tired because today I spent most of it working on the video that I just released today. So, I'm a little worn out. I'm a little tired, yawning a little. I'm going to do my best, okay? Okay. So, let's get into it. Chapter 12, where was I? Yep, here we go. Written April 7th, 2013. That gives you an idea of how old this is. My goodness. It is over 10 years old. That's scary. All right, here we go. Abraham, you listening? Michelle asked sharply. Abraham's head snapped up to attention. He'd been so lost in his thoughts that he hadn't heard Michelle speak to him. The entire club was seated at the table and were just finishing up breakfast. Michelle had apparently been addressing the entire table to give an announcement, and he'd been entirely oblivious. Yeah, sorry, Abraham replied sheepishly. Just a lot on my mind. A whole week had passed since Katie's return, and Asher displayed his devastating abilities. For all respects and purposes, it seemed as if the house had mostly returned to normal. Well, not all the way. Living in Tamil's room was nice and quiet, if a little dark. Tamil often joked that Abraham didn't need to worry about snoring or noises because it was quiet as a crypt when he slept. Abraham had laughed at this, but the first night that he'd slept in the room, he noticed that Tamil had not been joking entirely. The nights in the Monster Club were extremely quiet. Perhaps it was from all the excitement from the return of Katie, but somehow everything seemed deathly silent at night. Also, to Abraham's surprise, he felt a slight twinge of discomfort whenever Asher was around. Of all the members of the club, it was clear that Asher was the most powerful and deadly, and though he knew Asher was his friend, Abraham couldn't help but feel very uneasy around him. That night, when Asher went off to hunt, Warren had horrified him, and he couldn't help but feel as if Asher would just as easily decide to do the same to Abraham. He tried not to let his discomfort show around the others, but it was hard not to wince a little when Asher walked into the room. Abraham couldn't help feeling guilty about his feelings on the matter, and that meant he couldn't tell Michelle about it. Not without her judging him, in any case. Well, regardless, pay attention. Michelle leaned back and looked around at everyone else. Katie was coiled up at the far end of the table, unable to sit in a chair. Michelle looked in her direction as she spoke. Katie is now officially recovered, which means that our schedule is going to return to normal from here on out. When she finished saying this, she looked around at everyone inside. However, we've expended a lot of our medical supplies and food, which means we need to make a store run. There was a murmur around the table at this news. Tamil and Calypso both perked up excitedly, while Asher just shrugged. Sarah and Katie exchanged a look and nodded to each other, and Solomon, the only one not at the table, was behind the kitchen counter wiping up some spilled tea. I'll put together a list of things you'll need to pick up. Just grab it from me before you go. Before vanishing into thin air, the rag he was using falling onto the counter. Abraham couldn't help but notice how unaffected he was by this sight. Rather, he'd grown quite used to such things by now. Abraham watched as the table came alive with movement. Sarah went to the counter, picked up the couple of dish rags, and began picking up dishes, while Katie wiped down the tabletop. Asher stood up and nodded at Abraham, causing a shiver to run down his spine, and then made his way upstairs. Calypso watched him go and climbed to her feet as well. Michelle, I'm going to go get myself ready, she said quickly before hurrying off to her room upstairs. Michelle, Abraham spoke up, how do you go shopping? What happens? Michelle stared at him and laughed. Sorry, I keep forgetting you're new to our routines. She stood up and walked to the den, motioning for Abraham to follow. Well, when we go shopping, Tamil, Calypso, and myself go to the store together and pick up whatever Solomon puts on the list. After all, it's his money that we're using to pay for our necessities and whatever Sarah can add to it from her selling her clothes. Today, you'll be coming with us, too. It helps to have an extra set of hands these days. What about Katie, Sarah, and Asher? Well, Katie and Sarah stick out like a sore thumb. Usually they'd go and just do something together while we're gone. Asher can't leave the house in the daylight, so he stays here and sleeps or just does his own thing. Abraham nodded in understanding. Sure, I'll come with. So what do I have to bring? Bring nothing, Michelle answered. I'll just give the rest of us some time to get ready. See what you can do to help out. Actually, you know what? Go up to help Tamil get dressed. Tamil's going to get dressed? Abraham laughed, and Michelle giggled. Well, of course. What, do you think people will say if a mummy just walks down down to the store buck naked? Michelle inquired. Just get going. He'll explain everything when you get upstairs. Abraham nodded and ran upstairs to his room. Tamil was sitting in his bed, staring off into space with a pair of long pants in his hands. He sat up at the sound of Abraham walking in. Abraham, he asked, you are here to help me. Do you normally need help dressing? Abraham asked, and Tamil laughed darkly and then shrugged his bandaged shoulders. I do not wear clothes normally. Not used to. Tamil slipped up the pants over his bandaged legs and then began feeling around for the bottom-down jacket on his bed. Abraham stepped over and picked it up for him. Here, I got you. Abraham proceeded to help Tamil find and put on his clothes, which consisted of long jeans, a button-down shirt, a coat, and a hat. He then watched as Tamil carelessly removed some of the bandages around his head so that parts of his face were now showing. This way, I look like just have bad accident, Tamil explained. Can handle rest, thank you. Abraham smiled and then opened the door to go to the hallway, but was stopped short as he nearly ran into a figure standing in front of him. Whoa! Abraham had nearly run right into Michelle. In a hurry? She asked. Sorry, I didn't see. Don't worry about it. I actually need to talk to you for a moment. I just remembered something, she said calmly. She walked back down the hallway and past the bathroom where Abraham could hear the shower running. Who's in? Asher's getting a shower, which is why I wanted to talk to you while he can't hear us, Michelle muttered. She stopped at her room and opened the door, allowing Abraham in. Abraham looked around and was surprised to see just how nice it was inside. It was rather normal looking, but, of course, Abraham wasn't quite sure what he expected a werewolf's room to look like. What do you want to talk about? Abraham asked. Michelle sighed and rubbed the back of her neck. Abraham, I noticed it going on all week, Michelle groaned. Something's been bothering you, and it has to do with Asher, doesn't it? Abraham stopped and stared. How do you know that? Oh, come on. Wolves smell fear, and you stink. Abraham moaned and nodded. Okay, yeah, you're right, Abraham said. Abraham, please understand. I understand how you gotta feel. You're living in a house of monsters, and after the whole thing with Katie and, of course, that whole Warren incident, I can understand that you're a little uncomfortable. You get it? Abraham asked. Really? Really, that Michelle seemed to understand. Well, yeah, but You also need to realize that this is what we are. Every night Asher goes out to feed. He's a vampire, and it's what he does. I need to know, can you live with that? Abraham looked at his feet and shrugged. I'll try. It's just... As he spoke, he heard the water go off in the other room, and Michelle silenced him. We'll discuss this later when we're alone. Let's go downstairs and get ready to leave, please. Abraham nodded silently and followed her out the door. And go make sure Tamil's in disguise, please. Abraham turned and ran to his room to find Tamil, who was now fully dressed and sitting on the bed. All well? Tamil asked. Yeah, we're just getting ready to leave, and I want to make sure you are good to go. Tamil stood and made his way to the door. For being blind, his ability to navigate through his room was excellent. Not once did he have to slow down or check where he was going. We'll see you downstairs, then. Tamil stepped carefully around Abraham and out into the hallway. Abraham followed him out when he suddenly heard a voice from downstairs. Are you guys ready to leave yet? Mitchell shouted. I've got the list. We're leaving in 5. As she spoke, Asher stepped out of the bathroom and grimaced. He had on a shirt and boxers, and his body was still a little damp from the shower. Do you have to howl so loud? Keep it down. Don't leave without me, Michelle. There was a loud squeal, an exclamation of shock, and then Calypso came running out of her room fast, wearing a lovely sundress, only for her to trip and fall, crashing into Asher, who turned just in time to catch her as she slammed into his body. The house went deathly quiet as they looked to see Calypso and Asher's arm pressed against his body. Calypso hesitantly looked up at Asher, a deep blush on her blue face. Asher stared down at her, and to Abraham's shock, he was blushing too. Asher stared nervously. Calypso just whimpered. The two stared awkwardly at each other for a long moment before Calypso finally looked down, unable to keep her eyes on Asher's. You okay? Asher asked. Calypso nodded in reply, unable to speak back. Good. That's good. Abraham couldn't quite believe what he was seeing. This was the same creature that had ruthlessly destroyed a monster hunter and had single-handedly taken down a rampaging werewolf, but he was stuttering and blushing, unsure of what to say, like all the self-confidence he had been knocked out of him by Calypso. He looked nervous, embarrassed, scared even. Calypso wasn't any different. Her blue-tinted face was now glowing a deep red, and she couldn't even make eye contact with the vampire. Hey, let me know when you two are done making out and then we can leave. Michelle laughed from the top of the stairs. Oh, are those two at it again? Sarah's voice cried out. Can I go get my camera? Asher and Calypso both flushed and moved away from each other as they brushed themselves off, trying not to look at each other. Do they kiss yet? Someone tell me. No, but I wish they'd just get it over with, Michelle joked, nudging Tamil in the side. Would both of you just stop it? Calypso whimpered back, clearly embarrassed. She then turned and looked at Asher, but didn't quite make eye contact with him. Thanks for catching me, Ash, she whispered. She opened her mouth as if to say something else, but then squeaked, blushed, and ran off to go downstairs. Asher tried to call back to her, but she was already gone. He groaned under his breath and shot a dirty look at Michelle and Tamil. Yeah, real smooth, guys. Thanks, he snapped, and then turned to go back to his room. Michelle only laughed back. Yo, Abraham, did you think that scene looked a bit like something out of maybe Twilight? Asher stiffened at this and growled back at Michelle. Don't get me started, he snarled. Abraham couldn't help but chuckle a little. Well, obviously Asher would hate the Twilight series, being a Twilight vampire himself. Abraham just smiled sheepishly at all of them laughing. Yeah, Asher isn't nearly as mean as he seems. He's a big softy for a certain fish, Michelle whispered to Abraham. I heard that, Asher's muffled voice shouted from inside his room. Tamil and Michelle both burst out laughing. Well, we better get going before one of you starts ranting again. Michelle took Abraham and Tamil's hands and led them to the stairs where Calypso was waiting for them down below. Sarah was standing by the door with Katie at her side. Sarah held out a coat for Abraham to take as he began putting it on. It's going to be chilly out there. You'll need to bundle up, Sarah said as she handed Abraham his coat. And that goes for you too, Michelle, Katie said as she handed a second coat to her. Abraham followed Michelle's lead as he put on the coat. Thanks. I was just getting outside and enjoying the sunshine. It's a good day outside to do it. Katie nodded. That will be nice. Michelle then motioned to the door. All right, let's get this pack of misfits rolling. Michelle walked out, followed by Calypso and Tamil, both, and then following them was Abraham in the rear. Michelle had been right. The sun was shining brightly today, glowing down on them. The air was alive with a slight breeze as the bushes and trees swayed underneath it. Calypso and Tamil beamed at it, while Michelle seemed to be much calmer under the sun's embrace. This is the nicest weather we've had in a long time, Calypso informed Abraham. It's a good sign. I think today's going to go perfectly. And that's chapter 12. My throat's still worn out from reading earlier. I need to get myself something to drink real fast. I'll be right back, guys, and then we'll read chapter 13. Back. All right. All right, let me get chapter 13. Okay. Here we are, chapter 13. Abraham walked silently with the others, careful to remember where they were going and starting to wonder how far away they had to go in order to go shopping. Michelle was in the lead, walking briskly and with purpose. Tamil was hanging back slightly, smiling and looking around, or at least seeming to be looking around. He obviously couldn't see anything, but enjoying to get the chance to be outdoors. Calypso was looking at her feet, still a little embarrassed from the incident with Asher earlier. Abraham didn't quite know what to say or who to talk to. Thankfully, Michelle took care of that for him. Abraham, she said loudly, you're a little new to all this, so here's how we do things. When we get to the store, we'll split off into two groups. One group will go to the food section and pick up anything food-related. The other group will go to the clothing and toiletries area and pick up anything we need from there. When we've gotten everything, then we'll need you to go outside and check out at line 16. Only go to line 16, you understand? Michelle said sharply. Abraham nodded. Yeah, I got it. But why 16? Because the cashier knows us and doesn't ask questions, she explained. Once you get done checking out, we'll meet in the parking lot outside. Got any questions? Abraham looked to Calypso and Tamil and then nodded. I got one. How do we explain Tamil's bandages and Calypso's skin to everyone? Abraham asked. Michelle paused for a moment and looked at Calypso and Tamil. Show him. Tamil nodded his head and smiled and straightened up. I am a sport athlete from foreign country who hurt in terrible accident, still recovering, he said in an impressively straightforward manner. Calypso spoke elegantly and with a slight accent herself. And I was born with a genetic mutation that affects the pigment of my skin, making it a bluish tint, she said with a giggle. We've been going off of those excuses every time anyone asks us. Luckily, most people don't. You'd be surprised how many people just turn a blind eye to anything that's slightly odd. But that's the story you'll tell if anyone does ask. Think you can handle that? Sure, Abraham said, a little relieved. I can remember that. Michelle smiled and continued walking down the road with Abraham, and the others followed. Suddenly, Tamil stopped walking, his smile replaced by a look of nervousness and uncertainty. Michelle and Calypso stopped and looked at him. What is it? Tamil's gaze turned to the woods as if he could sense something in them. There is something following. How can you tell that? Blind, not stupid, Tamil answered darkly. I hear it following for 10 minutes. Do not know what it is. Michelle followed Tamil's gaze and looked into the trees. Think it's Asher? Abraham asked. Or maybe Katie and Sarah? Michelle shook her head. No, Asher can't leave the house at this time of day. Plus, Sarah and Katie know better than to follow us. Whatever it is, it's not a member of the club. Calypso hugged herself and trembled. I wish Asher were here. He could take care of it. Is that the only reason you want Asher here? Michelle smirked. Calypso blushed and scowled. Stop it! As they spoke, Tamil seemed to relax a little. Whatever it was, it's not there now. Michelle relaxed as well and nodded to the group. Then let's keep going, but be cautious. At long last, the group made it down into a bustling suburb where there was a large Walmart not far from the road. Michelle indicated it to the team, and they walked to the doors. Before they entered, Michelle stopped the group. Calypso, make sure your ear fins are covered. Tamil, stay close to me. She handed the clothing section list to Calypso, and then turned to Abraham. You're going to go with Calypso to the clothes and toiletry section. I'll take Tamil with me to get food. Why can't Calypso go with you? Abraham asked. Because Calypso only gets seafood, and Michelle not know how to buy good food, Tamil laughed. Michelle and Calypso both slapped the back of Tamil's head, causing his hat to fall off as he laughed at them. Abraham laughed too. All the stress and the nervousness from earlier felt like it was gone. All right, I'll go with Calypso then. Michelle smiled and patted his shoulder. Good luck, newbie. See you out here when we're done. She then took Tamil's hand and led him into the store. Calypso wandered in the store after them, but then took a left. Abraham followed her to the toiletries and clothing section. When they reached the aisle, Abraham looked at Calypso and nudged her. Hey, what's first on the list? Abraham asked. Calypso pulled up the list and looked at it. Her eyes narrowed and she kept looking straight at it as if it was a foreign object. I don't know, she gasped. What do you mean? I can't understand this writing, she said in a panic. I can't make it out. What's wrong? Did Solomon write this in some language or code? Am I disoriented? Calm down. Let me see it. Abraham asked quickly, trying to calm Calypso down. She held out a list for him to see, and it took all of his effort not to burst out laughing. Calypso, you're looking at it upside down. Calypso pulled it back and flipped it over. She then blushed and slapped her hand to her forehead. I'm so stupid. Abraham shook his head. No offense, but you act like a fish out of water. You always tripping and stumbling over yourself. Are you okay? Calypso blushed and looked away, trying to focus on the list. Well, Sure, I'm kind of clumsy on 2 feet. I prefer the water. It doesn't bother you, does it? Abraham shook his head. It's just funny, I guess. Calypso picked up a container of detergent and handed it to Abraham to carry. Well, I feel like it bothers everyone else, Calypso whispered, especially Asher. Abraham walked beside her as she walked down the aisle. Why do you think it bothers Asher? Calypso shook her head. I'm always tripping over myself around him, and he must think I'm a loser, always having to help me out. I mean, did you see the way he looked at me when I fell on him this morning? I was so embarrassed. I don't think he minded all that much, Abraham said, smirking. He reached up and grabbed a few bars of soap and looked back at Calypso. Maybe you should ask him about it sometime. Calypso looked down and gave a small smile. I don't know, maybe? Can we just get back to the list? I don't want to talk about it right now. Trying to return her focus to the task at hand, but Abraham was still filled with a lot of questions, and he knew that Calypso would be the perfect person to talk to. Unlike the others, Calypso wasn't very good at keeping secrets, so all he had to do was ask the right questions, and he might be able to get some real answers from her. Calypso, I was wondering, what's the story behind the Dawnbringers? Calypso stiffened and turned to look at him. Why do you want to know that? Well, if they're dangerous, I think it might be important to know everything I can about them, Abraham said innocently, pretending to be more focused on the shopping than the question. Calypso sighed and looked lost in thought. Well, the Dawnbringers are a society of monster hunters. They dedicate themselves to purging the world of all inhuman or supernatural things. Are there a lot of them? I don't know. I know that there are enough of them to be considered dangerous. Why haven't they attacked us before? Abraham asked. I mean, they managed to capture Katie, so they knew where we lived. No, Katie was kidnapped outside of the house. They wanted to use her to make her show them where our home was. They've never been able to find our home before. The only hunters that know where we live are now dead, thanks to Asher. Gotcha, Abraham said, trying to process that. So Asher keeps the house safe from them? Before him, all we could do was hide when the Dawnbringers were near. It was our only choice. But then when Asher came, we didn't have to hide anymore, Calypso said. Does Asher normally feed on the Dawnbringers he killed? Abraham growled, remembering that night Asher had killed Warren. Calypso shivered and closed her eyes. Asher is... Calypso tried to explain but stopped short. He's what? Asher's not a monster, Abraham. Every night Asher has to go out and feed to keep up his strength. It's not because he wants to, it's because he has to. Abraham paused, just watching Calypso, realizing that he may have gone too far. Sorry, I didn't mean to offend. It's all right, she said. Just try not to think of him too harshly. Abraham followed her in silence. She continued to pick up items from the list, and at long last it seemed like they'd collected everything that they needed. Do you think the others are done now? I don't know. Let's check out and wait in the parking lot like Michelle said, Calypso replied. Abraham nodded and went out to aisle 16. There a young woman was waiting. She looked up to see Calypso and looked around nervously. Hey, Calypso, how you doing? She asked. Calypso smiled and put the goods in front of the woman. Just a little tired. Michelle and Tamil didn't come by here already, did they? You're the only club member here so far. I'll let them know you got here first, she said, looking at Abraham and frowning. And who this? He's Abraham. He's new to the club. And he's human. The woman went about checking out the items and nodded. Used to these guys yet? She said. Getting there, and the woman laughed. Believe me, they're an interesting bunch. I've known them for about 10 months now, and I'm still not quite used to them. The name's Abby, by the way. When she was done checking everything out, she looked at Calypso. So, who's paying? Michelle's got the money. You'll have to wait on her. Abby nodded. All right. I suggest taking your stuff and heading out. I'll let Michelle know that you came by. Thanks, Abby. Take care now. With that, Abraham and Calypso picked up their bags and walked out into the parking lot. The sun blinded them for a moment, but they kept on walking. And suddenly Calypso stopped. Abraham? Something isn't right. What do you mean? I can't place it, but it feels like... excuse me. Abraham and Calypso spun around to see a middle-aged man running up to them. He looked rather fat and out of breath. He was balding and had on glasses. I'm sorry for bothering you, but I was wondering if you could help me. I'm late for a meeting, and I was wondering if you knew how to get to Ridgecrest Lane. I think it's about 3 blocks in that direction, Abraham answered. The man smiled and held up his hand. Really? Thank you. Also, you should probably know, he reached into his jacket and pulled out a small water pistol, that you're about to get wet. He squirted Calypso with the water pistol. She squealed as her legs fell out from under her, or rather, they vanished from under her, turning quickly into her long mermaid tail as she fell to the ground in a heap. She couldn't stand. The grocery bags in her hands clattered to the ground as she dropped them with her fall. Abraham stared in shock. What the hell? Mermaids are forced to return to their original form when in the presence of water, the man said sternly, losing all his warmth and kindness. He's one of them, Calypso cried. You're free to go, human. My business is with the mermaid. Abraham looked around and saw that there was no one else nearby to see her, but he couldn't risk anyone seeing Calypso like this. He ripped off his jacket and threw it over her lower body, covering her tail. The Dawnbringer agent stared at them with a frown. I said, leave, kid. I can't do that, Abraham stuttered, but the Dawnbringer sighed. All right, you die with her. When you two have been dealt with, the 2 in the store will die next. So it was you. You're the one that Tamil detected following us in the woods. You detected me? Right. I'm sure it was that wolf girl who smelled me out. You can call me Gregory. I'm an agent with the Dawnbringer organization. And after Warren and his partner went missing, we couldn't ignore your little club anymore. Abraham felt a small spark of anger course through him. Warren was killed by a vampire, and he'll kill you too if you don't leave right now. But Gregory laughed. Why do you think I chose to attack in broad daylight in the middle of a public location? Your pet vampire isn't here to save you. Abraham felt his heart fall as he realized the truth of these words. It was all true. Asher wasn't here now, and he had no way to protect Calypso or any of the others when they came out. If he attacked too rashly, it would draw too much attention, and that would expose Calypso. He knew he had to be careful about this. Gregory then slowly pulled a real pistol out of his jacket and cocked it. He held it close to his body so that passerby wouldn't notice it as easily. Any final words? That was chapter 13. All right, here we are, chapter 14. Actually, hold on 1 second. Sorry, guys, 1 second. My phone just went off. See what's up. Okay, guys, I hate to do this. I really hate to do this, but it would appear that my mom just messaged me because something's going on and I need to call her back. So, we're going to have to end the stream a bit early. I am super sorry about that. I'm sorry that we didn't get further. Luckily, we managed to finish 2 chapters, but I don't know what's going on. Let me edit this real quick. And we'll pick up next time on chapter 14. Let me save that. All right. Sorry about that, guys. I don't know what's going on, and I don't know how long this will take. If I'm done in like the next 5 or 10 minutes, I may come back. If not, we'll continue this next Monday. All right, guys. I will see you next time. Sorry about this. I really am sorry about this. We'll pick up next time. Thank you guys so much. I will see you in my next video. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.